Lifestyle Pirates with Big J and Adriano.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's episode of Lifestyle Pirates with me, Big J, and him, Adriano.
Thanks, mate.
This morning we are joined here by, well, we're going to be talking about something very close to our heart, wine, and we're joined here by Lou the Somm.
Hi, guys.
Morning, how are we?
Very good.
Was it a big night last night?
It was
in,
a little...
in the hospo world?
It was a big night. Friday night's a big one for the after-work crowd.
Yeah, and Mardi Gras as well.
And Mardi Gras as
Lots
well.
of colour in Double Bay?
Lots of colour, lots of colourful martinis.
Very good.
Is Friday usually typically more is busier than Saturday?
It's more fast and furious. So everyone comes in at the same time. They all go at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So it's a lot of fun. But they're all ready for a drink, so they're not very patient.
And then I can attest to that as well. So you are the head sommelier at Bibo Wine Bar in Double Bay.
I sure am.
And I was reading recently you have won an inordinate amount of awards. Like, talk to us about that. Well done on that as well.
Congratulations.
Probably the most recent one is the Wine List of the Year Awards, which was pretty big for me, especially after last year. I won the Sommeliers Choice, which is basically all the sommeliers vote for their favourite venue, and they voted for me.
That's mega.
That's amazing.
That was pretty that kind of peer reviewing, you don't really get a chance like that, so that was pretty incredible. There was a slight little tear, glass of champagne.
Yeah.
I found out on a Monday night. It was pretty lame, to be honest. I was by myself drinking champagne, crying.
Still counts.
Not
So were you
Happy
drinking
tears.
champagne and then found out, or did you crack a bottle?
I cracked a bottle.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you're right, that peer review, that's so cool
Yeah.
to just be acknowledged by not only people, general public, and you get great feedback there, but from people in your world. That's awesome.
So what sets you aside from everyone else?
I really have this, well, almost like an agenda, but what really got me into wine is that I love being with people. I'm like an extreme extrovert. I thrive on it. If I'm alone for too long, I get really sad. No, that's not true. I love Netflixing and chilling.
Yeah.
But I really love the sense of community, and I think because I grew up in rural Australia, I always loved the support that I had from other people. And when I moved to Sydney, it was really hard to kind of get into that community, and I really had to prove myself. I worked for the Rockpool Group for a very long time and got in there. But sometimes when that happens, people either go two ways. They keep the kind of door closed and they're like, yes, you have to prove yourself. But for me, I really wanted to open the doors, especially for women in wine as well. But I was like, okay, let's make this more of a community rather than a sect. So, yeah.
Is there a different, like when you say women in wine, is it different for women in the wine industry?
I think it used to be, just speaking from my experience, I'm not too sure. But we've got an amazing abundance of women winemakers as well, especially ones that own their own businesses. I think like 10 years ago, you hardly had any female sommeliers. Now there's heaps of us, which is awesome. Like I was telling you, we're doing a Women in Wine event tomorrow, and I've invited 4 other female sommeliers in Sydney, and we're having a big party on Monday for International Women's Day, which is like 30 female sommeliers. So it's more now about celebrating it, thanking those who really forged that path for us, which is like Kim Bickley, Amanda Yallop from Key, like Pip she's down at Mona in Tassie.
Yeah.
So it's more about that. It's more about let's stop talking about how we're scarce, because we're not scarce anymore. Let's start talking about how awesome we are.
Awesome.
Very good. Well, clearly you are, because you've just won some awards on that. So what got you into wine growing up in rural Australia?
Well, I did grow up in Orange, so it is a wine region.
It is a wine region, good wine region.
Very nice wine region. Mum and Dad don't drink wine, so it wasn't them, unfortunately. They were lovely parents, but Dad drinks beer. Mum used to have a glass of red, but she doesn't anymore. But I had a best friend, so Q Wine, who I grew up with, and we went to school together, and she owned a little family winery out at Canowindra, which is about an hour and a half away from Orange. And I used to go there every weekend. She taught me how to horse ride. We'd go like horse riding down the vines. I remember during harvest, her mum would be like, girls, can you do a pump down and we'd be like, oh, Margaret, we're on MSN, like, leave us alone. Now we're like, Margaret, we're going to make a wine. So they surrounded me with it. And her mother and father were really, they traveled the world. Her father was an opera singer. She had this really interesting family, 4 girls. And we just always stayed in touch, and it was just really bizarre that she's a winemaker now and I'm a sommelier, and now we're just doing this project together. And my partner's name's Steve, her partner's name's Steve. He's a winemaker. We just hang out and drink wine.
Yeah.
Sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
Sounds fabulous. So talk us through, so this is your stuff that you brought along here today.
Yeah.
Walk us through this. And more importantly, let's crack it.
Oh, yeah. Should I do that?
You've been waiting for that, haven't you?
Absolutely. I've hydrated with water.
There we go. Oh, listen to that Australian wine. There's no corks here.
Actually, was there a decision on that? Did you want it to be a screw top rather than cork?
Good topic.
Good topic. It is more affordable.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Smells good.
But it is it's meant to be drunk young. So I'm not going to pretend like you should cellar this for, 30 years and that's its peak.
I really struggle to keep wine for a long period of time.
Me too.
Really struggle. And that's why
I know why. I know your missus.
Yeah. And that's why, to be honest, that's why we buy surplus, because then you forget what you've bought.
And then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
what's that?
So walk us through this. What's this?
So this is from the family winery. So this was their 15-year anniversary. They converted to organics around 10 years ago, and it's 100% Mourvedre, which in Australia is also known as Mataro, but we like Mourvedre because it is more of a less Barossa-like version and more a Canaldra-like version, so really aromatic. We essentially, this was really our guinea pig wine. Mm-hmm. So we essentially made 4 different wines, chucked one of them because it was bad. So you make a lot of mistakes. Mm-hmm. And then blended it at the end. So we did an early pick, so that's where you get the freshness from. We did a late pick, that's where you get the fruit and the alcohol. There's a lot of alcohol in this wine.
Yeah.
It was a warm vintage. And lots of different little winemaking techniques as well. And then we did a big blend at the end. Had many arguments about said blend. But this is the final product.
Tasty as.
I haven't had a look at it in a while. Pouring at Bibo Wine Bar.
So you just used the term, I haven't had a look at this wine. What does that mean?
Oh, in a while. I haven't looked at it in probably 2 weeks.
Well, and when you say look, though, I know you're not talking about reading the back of the label. Oh. What does that term mean when you say look at wine?
Just thinking, because I taste wine on a daily basis, which is basically when you see a sommelier tasting wine, it's not, we enjoy it, but in a restaurant, we're literally just analysing it, making sure that it's sound for the customer. So when I say that I've tasted this wine a lot because I always check the bottles when I open them, but I haven't had an in-depth look and seen how it is. Is it a good spot? That kind of thing.
So what's the goal of the Somm?
The goal of the Somm is to probably, that's a tough question. No, actually I like this question, is to communicate what the winemaker and what the place is in a wine to the consumer, and doing that in a respectful way.
Yeah. Respectful way. What do you mean by that?
When I say respectful way, I mean from the top to the bottom. So when you bring the wine in, you put it in a cellar. It's cellar temperatured. When somebody orders it in a restaurant, if it's an old wine, you carry it in the right way. You decant it. You have nice glassware. That's probably my only little gripe, and I might get comments about this, but I really hate going to nice places with nice wine lists and they don't have nice glassware. I really don't think, if you really respect the winemaker and the producer and the sense of time and place, then you're going to put it in a nice glass.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I'm just
100%. Yeah,
don't drink it out of a coffee cup. I know it looks cool, but
and I sometimes get that when, and I remember a few years ago actually, we were in Hawaii sitting at the pool bar, and at the pool bar they had a cracking wine list. So we chose a decent bottle of wine, And the chap brought it over, and it had all the theatre, decanted it, but then put it in a plastic wine glass.
That would be because of the pool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I kind of said, hey, look, I get it. Yeah, we buy a pool, but we've chosen a nice bottle of wine. Can I please have it in a glass? You know, and he understood and he very kindly replaced it and opened up a fresh one and all that. But yeah, wine out of a plastic glass as well. Why do that?
Yeah.
And still charge $20-$30, you know?
So that's the problem with all these rules.
Speaking of rules, last year, obviously, hospitality with COVID, hospitality industry with COVID would have been a pretty tough one.
Yeah.
You've said you thrive around people and like people as we do. How was that for you and Bibo as well?
I need to stop saying I
Nailed it.
nailed it. To be honest, I really thrived. I still was surrounded by people. We were very lucky because we still stayed open for takeaway. So I got to hang out with my Bibo family all the time. Whereas like my partner, he had to stay home, and I could really tell that it was driving him insane. But it was another skill set that I didn't know that I had. And we were just so dynamic, and we just buzzed as a team, and it was really incredible. And I feel like we're really reaping the benefits now than maybe other businesses. Everywhere seems to be really busy, but everything that Gladys did, go Gladys, we liked her for this one, for Bibo was incredible. So we rarely wasted food because we went straight into takeaway. So we just adapted really quickly. I was doing weekly wine packs. I sold like 50% of the cellar, which was a bit of a nightmare when we reopened. But when I saw that it was busy, it was really cool because then I could order more wine. I basically wrote a new wine list. So it was just like all this new stuff. I was writing EDMs, we were doing social media and marketing. Like when you're on the floor all the time, it's really amazing. But, you know, there's so many other different facets to hospitality now. And I mean, in any industry. So it was just really exciting to kind of dabble into different things. I really pushed my own profile on Instagram and have a nice little following now. So it was just really nice to kind of step back, not be working nights all the time and going, you know, this is my potential, which is really cool.
Yeah. And one can imagine your studying of wine increased dramatically as well.
Yes, well, I still thought my exam was going to be in August, but they cancelled it. So I did a lot of study, a lot of tasting, but then they cancelled it. So then I kind of kept studying, but I've got it again in August this year. So
you went through and sold 50% of your cellar. Amazing job. And then you said you made a new wine list.
Yeah.
So how does that come about? Is there like a table reading, or like do you sit down with so many different bottles of wine and you just start, drinking?
Are you angling for any invite to the next one?
I just want to know where I can put my name down.
What did I do? I really think I had this one gripe. A customer said to me, "You only list wines that you like to drink." And I was really annoyed. There we go. That was me censoring myself because I was like, "That is 100% not true." I'd make sure that I would drink every wine that I would list because if somebody doesn't like it, somebody's got to drink it. Another man's trash isn't the person's treasure. So every time I list a wine, I think about every situation. So, corporates come in, they've signed a deal. I need to make sure I have a high-end champagne. Mum and daughter are coming in for lunch. They don't want to spend too much money. A nice rosé at $60. I'm bringing grandpa in. He loves Coonawarra Cabernet at this price. Like, so for me, I'm going, do I have this at this price point? Do I have this at this price point? Do I have all my bases covered? And then I put on the wines that I enjoy.
Okay, yeah.
And then I make sure I link everything up. So, if somebody does come in and they're like, you know what, I love New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, but I want to try something different. I make sure I have that little segue. Yeah. And that's my favorite thing to do is, somebody always drinks Pinot Grigio, and I take them to another part of the world with an unusual varietal with some unusual history behind it, and they like it. Yeah. If they like it, it's great. Yeah. If they don't like it, it's fine. I'll just drink it. But
I love that. That's the whole exploration of wine as well.
Yeah.
I always like to trust the Somm as well. So if I go to a restaurant and I get a good vibe off the Somm, I'll sort of let them drive. And I've been amazed so many different times. I'm very open to wine except for Pet Nat. which we'll go into later.
Off cider.
Yeah, but I absolutely love it, and I love the fact that the Somm can, I'm very specific about what I like, and I'll make sure I make that clear, and they're usually on the money.
They're usually pretty good.
Yeah,
most of the time.
So it must be very hard because wine is very subjective, I guess. So to build a wine list around subjectivity must be quite difficult. Do you go with? You also mentioned that the old grandpa got the Pinot Noir or something like that. So do you pick up on sort of trends and stuff like that, and you have to move into that as well? Yeah.
When we first opened, I poured one skin contact wine and had maybe like 3 orange wines. Now I have a whole section.
Yeah,
it's really important, and people are really, really open. I think that was one of the biggest things I realized being in Double Bay. Before COVID, I was really set that we had this kind of older demographic, which is fine. But I really thought it was like over 30s, almost like over 35. And then
that's not old.
That's not old. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
I'm 32. I'm getting.
I need my nap now.
But I think I realized that especially like all these people who were buying wine packs, which were $200 for 6 bottles of wine. That's not cheap. And I was looking, they would come in and pick it up from Bibo. I'm like, there's all these young couples moving into Double Bay, and we really have to start tapping into this, and what do they love? And I think what the natural wine movement has done for wine is absolutely incredible. People like Mike Benny, P&B Merchants, Rootstock when it was around. I think people like natural wine, but I think they love the movement and the connection that they have with the bottle and the winemaker more than the wine. Like that's what's selling the wine.
Can we expand on the natural wine movement for perhaps people that don't know what it is, and maybe what an orange wine is as well? Because when I first read orange wine, I thought that it came from where you were from. So
best review ever is off. I think it's on Sirius. If you ever get a chance, I like to go and read bad reviews, which I think are hilarious. Like on the reviewer part, it's on Sirius, and they're like, "We had this beautiful restaurant." By the way, this isn't harping on them. This is harping on the review. And they were like, "Beautiful restaurant, great food, horrible wine from Pheasant's Tears from the town of Orange." And I was like, it's an orange wine. It's not from Orange. Because I'm from Orange, and everyone has a big gripe. They're like, call it amber or skin contact. Like people start thinking that orange wine tastes like that.
So how does it? Well, why do they call it orange wine? What makes it that?
The easiest way to explain it is, so usually white wine, you just press it straight away, straight into barrel, or tank or concrete egg or whatever vessel you have lying around. Whereas orange wine is made like red wine, so it's left on the skins. But you have like varying levels. So you might have orange wine. I always like is like made like rosé. So you'll see a lot of skin contact Pinot Gris. They have very minimal time on skins, but it'll get a little bit of color.
Yep.
You'll have ones that have been left on skins for months, years, maybe not years. That they bury it in the ground and leave it there, and then come back and have a look at it.
There you
See?
go.
They're like, I haven't seen this wine in a while. So, and then the really cloudy ones aren't actually from it being orange. It's from it being unfined, unfiltered. So that's when you get the really cloudy, and that's usually more natural kind of new styles.
Disgorging or whatever it's called.
No,
That's
disgorging.
That's
That's with bubbles.
Yeah.
That's with pet nat.
Well, that's the problem with pet nat. They don't disgorge it.
Yeah.
They just let it hang around.
Whatsoever.
So what's this natural wine movement then? So you're saying there's this kind of groundswell of people that want a bit more of an artisan product. Is that what you're saying?
Artisan. I mean, we're more environmentally aware. It's kind of the pushback on those large bulk wines, and it's the connection to story and people, and that's what I think people are really looking for now, rather than, although, my sister, she's like, I went to Dan Murphy's and I bought an organic wine, and she showed me the label. It was like organic wine.
Literally.
That's what it said. And literally all that means is they would have bought it from an organic vineyard, and then a few little standards in the winery, but that kind of defeats the purpose.
So in your social circle, your friends, your community, outside of your Somm kind of community? Do people always just come to you and go, "Hey, what do you think?" Or do you do this?
Uncle,
Like, do you get frustrated?
Uncle John,
Uncle John, strong name, like
strong
him.
name. He called me last week because he's a doctor, and always doctors get the most amazing wine gifts.
Well, hopefully podcast hosts do as well. I mean, you brought a cracking bottle here, so it's lovely.
And he called me and he's like, he was doing a little Shiraz tasting. He's like, how do I open the bottle? When do I decant it? How many glasses? Like, just shot. I think we were on the phone for a good 40 minutes about how to run this thing. He's like, how should I score it?
We've got time. Let's go through that. No.
So that's, you raise a good point. To decant
Or not decant.
or
Or
not
not to
decant?
decant.
That is the question. Where'd the German guy come from? Can we get a Riesling in here, please?
Charles. When in doubt, don't decant.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's
Is that like
especially
if you're doubting opening the bottle? Because I never have that.
No. Especially if it's old. Okay, actually, I'll make this even more specific. 0 to 5 years, you can decant.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, lighter varietals like Pinot, you shouldn't. But if it's 0 to 5 years old, you can chuck it in. It'll open up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't even have to be fancy about it. Just
Yeah,
straight in.
nitro pour.
Yeah,
I love
nitro
it.
pour.
Yeah.
5 and older, unless you've really got some solid reviews. Maybe even to 10. 10's fine, but it's really hard. Like when you get to like those old, like 20 to 30-year-old bottles, unless you've got a lot of experience. Like me and my partner were fortunate enough to get gifted a 1981 Côte de Tonnelle, which is a super second growth from Bordeaux, amazing wine. And we didn't decant it, and we were like, we should have, but you know, you just really risk ruining like I've decanted wines before and they'll be really good for like 20 minutes and then they'll just drop and they'll turn like all you can taste is like very stripped acid tannin, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's why I'm like, when in doubt, don't decant.
Right. So decant younger wines,
Yeah.
older wines, and one of your team, can't remember his name, used the term breaking the wine with old wines when you decant them.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a French
You
interpretation.
you probably know who, but he mentioned that. He said with old wines, but people obviously just naturally think I've got a decanter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I like that.
You've got to get. I've really got to buy some for Bibo, and I finally found a company that does it. But you've got to get a little cradle, and they're really cute. When you put the bottle in, it looks like you put a little baby to bed, and you like pour it like that, and that way the sediment doesn't, get into your glass, but you don't have to decant it. So like with high-end Burgundy, even like really old Bordeaux, really old Aussie wine as well, you just.
Okay. So going back to putting the menu together. Sorry, buddy.
No, that's all right.
You should be used to it by now. Yeah. Going back to putting the menu together, do you try and do the food pairing as well? Because I read a lot now that the whole, you must have a red with red meat and you must have a white with fish. That's kind of gone out the window. Would you agree? Do you take that into consideration?
Yeah, me and food and wine matching is that, I will recommend wine with food, of course, and I think it's very important.
Wine on its own is also very good.
Wine on its own is also very good. And at the end of the day, if you feel like drinking red wine, just bloody drink red wine.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people come in and we offer matching wine with our chef share menu, which I love doing. I adore doing it. But when people order it, sometimes they don't care.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm annoying them, and I'm like, sorry, it's me again, here to talk to you about a wine that you don't really, I can tell maybe they just did it for fun, but I can tell I'm annoying them. So a lot of the time I'm like, just so you know, I'm going to be here a lot. If you really just want to get a nice bottle of red, because it's expensive, matching wines are expensive. So maybe we could just get an amazing bottle. But if you really want to learn something, I'm totally up for it. But I just feel really bad a lot of the time because I'm like, hey, it's me again.
Wouldn't necessarily do on a first date.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're really interested and keen, and I'm totally up for it.
I absolutely love it when it's perfectly matched to a dish. Wine, I think it opens up a great wine can be like an 8, but with perfectly matched dish, it can be 10, straight up.
There's definitely like food wines that I would never drink by themselves, but I would only drink them with food.
Is that more a specific varietal or terroir?
Italy.
Yeah. Okay. So
Italy. Italy.
Very acidic stuff.
It's more like I really love describing, except for, okay, this is Pinot Grigio you can drink all day, every day.
Wedding
it's
wine.
One of our best sellers, pays my wage. We love Pinot Grigio. Wedding wine, same as rosé. But they're white wines. I find them very kind of oily and bitter, and this is a really thing that a tough thing that Australian palates find hard. Like I'm always trying to explain to them, it's, you know, bitter's not a bad thing. Like think about Campari, Aperol. It is, and the white wines really remind me of that. So I'm like, it's good bitters, but yeah, if you drink it by itself, it is quite bitter and quite. We use the term phenolic because you get it from the phenols.
Phenolic.
Phenolic.
It's a Scrabble winner.
And so yeah, I wouldn't drink it by itself, but with food, it's amazing. Like with fish, because of the oiliness, you know, it goes really well. So there's definitely food wines. I'm actually just I'm consulting on a bar wine list, which is PS40 in the city. And he wants me to curate a list, and he's like, it's not dependent on food. So they have to be like, basically every wine has to be a banger. That's what he said. I was like a juicy banger. Like, you know what, like when you hear a song, you're like, yes.
Yeah, that's a banger.
It's like, you know, every wine you have to pick up and drink and go, yum. You know, you're not questioning, do I like it? Do I not? It's like juicy, delicious. Yeah, let's go. So I just did German Riesling. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
That German Riesling at your place, I can't remember.
The John Hull?
Oh,
so good.
that was as
Emotional.
Deliciano.
Oh, yeah, puff it above.
So good.
Juicy wine. It's
So good. Yeah, I was very impressed.
So I take it you're not a fan of Italian wines?
I love Italian
Yeah, we did skip
wines.
over that. I noticed that. That's ruined about 30 of your questions.
Let me just close this book.
I love Italian reds. I love Italian wine. And I love Italian reds like Barolo, Barbaresco, Brunello.
Yeah.
Even like, Sicilian wines, Sardinian wines.
Sicilian wines are really
Incredible.
starting to
Like I would just say on the
punch above their weight now.
So in general, I really like Italian wine across the board, Italian red wine across the board. The white wines I struggle with.
They are a bit out there.
Yeah. And I know that I get shown them, I'm like, oh, they're really interesting. But I know that it'll be really hard to sell.
Yeah,
Like,
100%. There's in Friuli region, there's a Radicon, is winemaker. It's
He's
that
a
is
natty.
the weirdest.
It tastes like soy sauce. I love
That is
it.
the weirdest wine I've ever tasted in my life. Halfway through the bottle, or the second one, I started to like it though.
Yeah.
I wonder why that was.
Yeah. It's one of those wines that every time I open it, it looks different.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
And those kinds of wines are super special because it reminds me that wine is a living thing and it can change, and you can't, should you control it? Should you not control it? And I think his wines are just so awesome in that respect.
Yeah.
We had a belter white wine, didn't we, in San Gimignano up at that fort. Do you remember what it was?
No chance.
I think I took a picture of it, but it was
a banger though.
It was a
It was a banger.
It was a banger.
Add it to the list.
Was it? No, it was a Vernaccia.
Oh, Venezia de
Quite
San.
possibly.
Yeah. So from Sardinia region, or was it from San
No, it was from
San
from
Gimignano?
where we were staying.
It
Yeah,
was white.
yeah.
Yeah, they're really good wines.
Yeah, man.
There's some really
I'm
good
pretty sure I got
ones.
picked up.
Like there is. It's
course there
just
is.
in like you've just got to seek them out.
So, what's your favourite? What's your go-to? So, if you had to drink one wine for the rest of your life,
Well,
what is it?
I've
Oh no, you've stolen my question.
no, that was mine. That was mine.
So-
I've never been asked that question before, guys. I don't know.
What would it be?
I'm joking.
I mean, that's like the hardest question to.
It's
It
the
depends on
hardest
what,
question to answer.
it's like when, which child do you love more?
I am a
I love them all the same.
Australian female. I love me some Chardonnay. I love Chardonnay.
Yeah.
It's like you can get so many different styles. So if you were like,
I'm partial to
what-
Chardonnay. I
Say it.
Oh, we've set up a
Catherine
trend.
Kim.
We've set up a trend.
I had the best question, so I had a wine trivia night
Yeah.
with heaps of Somms. A lot of them are from overseas, and I stumped because I had not just wine questions, and I said, "What is Kath and Kim's wine of choice?" And they're all like, "Who is this Kath and Kim? I don't understand." I was like, and there was one Australian who was a chef, and the whole night he was just like, "Oh my god, I just can't even like." I'm not up to their level of knowledge. And then he was like, guys,
Got that. Nailed it.
nailed it.
So on that then, if money was no object, what would you drink? Just a belting
Can you stop reading my question?
Chardonnay?
I would just drink Coastery like all day, every day, which is an amazing producer he's based in Merceau, but he does like Corton and stuff like that. Really hard to get. I'm still yet to get an allocation negotiations. Come on, guys, give me an allocation.
We'll make sure it's in their inbox.
We want some too.
We want some,
Slide into their
please.
DMs.
But I mean that there'll be so many Somms that roll their eyes at me that they'll be like, "Oh, everybody loves Kosher." I'm like, "There's a reason."
So you mentioned some big regions as well, Burgundy, Barolo.
All the B's, mate. It has to start with B or it's not good.
Really?
Beechworth.
Barossa.
Burlo. Chardonnay. Love them. So what differentiates those big sort of massive regions from everyone else? Why are they so good?
Well, the history. So there's a reason why they chose those spots, and it is the microclimate, mesoclimate, and the soil types. So they're the reason. Like there is a reason because of it. Like you go to Burgundy and you have very specific styles of limestone. My favourite actually is the Kimmeridgian limestone, which it starts in Sancerre in the Loire Valley and then horseshoes up and it goes through the Orbe region in the southern region in Champagne, which you actually get a bit of still Pinot and Chardonnay, and then it comes down to Chablis. So if somebody likes Chablis, I send them to Sancerre. Someone likes Sancerre, I send them to Chablis, and it's kind of making that connection. So that's from like an inland sea. So you've got little oyster shells and micrasta. And same with Burgundy, you've got Jurassic limestone. You've got, there is a reason between the different Premier Cru sites and Grand Cru sites, the depth of the soil, where it sits on the hill, it's the same in Barolo and Barbaresco. You've got different soil types there, the altitude, like there's so many different factors that go into it. And it really is like back in the day, they just would have been planting and been like, oh, it's really good here. Let's map this out. And then we'll put the cows in that paddock instead where it's not growing well. But now it's like, they've classified everything.
So just on geography alone, do the Australians have no chance about beating that?
No.
In such a subjective thing,
there's definitely, where Australia wins? Australia has like hands down the best winemakers in the world.
Yeah.
Like we can make wine from anywhere.
Yeah.
Resilient. We're resilient, we're just really like, we're obsessed with balance, which sometimes isn't a good thing. No, I'm good. I'm to keep drinking the wine.
Just touch the water.
Yeah, my glass has got a hole in it. It seems to have absorbed. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we've got some of the best winemakers in the world. We've got a huge, I was going to say planet. We've got a huge country.
We do have a huge planet.
We do have a huge planet. And we're still trying, we're still finding, still learning. We've got vineyards up in Queensland now. There's different places in New South Wales. The climate's changing. Like in 2009 in Italy, it was so hot. The Italians had no idea what to do. And, they called their buddies in Barossa and were like, what do we do? What do we do? Because basically when it gets really hot like that, the vine shuts down. So even though it's really hot, it doesn't get to phenological ripeness. So that's really like, when I first learned that, I was like, that's so opposing. Like surely more sun equals more sugar, more growth. But when it gets too hot, the vine's like,
it's like me in summer.
See ya. Yeah, you're on the couch, you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to do anything. So they called their guys in Barossa and Barossa's like, this is how you do it.
Yeah, wow.
No, I'm sure that's not what they said, but
Cuzzies, what's going on down there?
What's going on down there? We sent you down there. And I think there's definitely like a question I always get asked is if you were to go to France and really, show off Australian wine, what would you take? And I'm Australian Chardonnay, 100%, hands down, Margaret River, anywhere from Victoria, Tasmania, Adelaide Hills, like consistently amazing Doesn't matter what the style. You know, you can make it like toasty, nutty, reductive style. You can make it old school, buttery, creamy. It's going to be delicious. And I remember judging a show at Adelaide Hills Wine Show, and I really went in there like going like Pinot. And I came out like Pinot, Chardonnay. I was like, the bracket was just, you do these like big brackets and usually like 1 or 2 golds. I was like, gold, banger.
You're the gold. Can we get the gold star lady here again, please?
It was just, and every show that I've done since, every time the Chardonnay bracket comes up, they actually like, you know, they give it to different panels. And I'm always like, please give me the Chardonnay bracket, please, because it's so just deliciously consistent. So I would take that and I would take a Cabernet because, again, like, so when you talk about terroir and different sites, like you look in Australia and there's 3 sites, you know, again, Margaret River, Yarra Valley and Coonawarra. Those are 3, like you taste those side by side and they're completely different. They have their own, like Coonawarra has eucalypt. Margaret River has this like bell pepper thing going on. Yarra Valley is like super silky and soft, and it's not from the winemaking. Yes, there are tweaks to, you know, the grapes that they're getting in, but it's pretty incredible stuff. And then my last one, and then I'll shut up, is Pinot Noir, which is just incredible. I was literally talking about this last night about like Gippsland and what Bass Phillip has done there. Like Gippsland Pinot tastes like Gippsland Pinot. Like nothing else tastes like Gippsland Pinot. It's like super rustic, red. You have basalt rock there. You can taste it. You know, I don't care. People are like, minerality is a joke. I'm like, well, when you can taste it, it's there. And like Geelong, incredible, Mornington. So, yeah, so I think Australia definitely, and I know so many French people that love Australian wine because it's so deliciously consistent. It's just, you know, if you fork out a little bit of money on a list on Australian wine, you're not going to be disappointed. If you fork out $300 in Burgundy, you might either get a banger or I love this term. I'm going to just use it forever. Or you can be really like severely disappointed. So and poorer, a lot poorer. So that's only, you know, $300 now might get you like a Premier Cru site.
Not even Grand Cru.
Not even Grand Cru. No. Maybe like a Corton, but
just drink a Village at that stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like $200 is like Village, and you know, Bourgogne Rouge is like $150 on a list. So, yeah.
So, one thing I've always been fascinated about Somms is the language they use.
Oh yes.
Where does everyone get this stuff from?
Mate, we get it from Somm.
Is there actually a book? Is there a book that you guys are reading? It's like, all right, what absolute shit can I make up here?
We
Fresh cut grass with crushed cockroaches. Like what?
Tennis balls.
What?
Tennis balls. Yeah. That was also another trivia question.
New Adidas trainers.
Specifically Adidas.
It's really, you do a lot of tastings with other Somms, so it's almost like.
Because I can't taste anything. The only thing I'm getting is drunk.
I'll evaluate this one for you at the end. Just like
give it a listen.
I was joking. I just wanted to use that. Sorry.
Yeah, we hang out with each other a lot and do tastings a lot. So like even what I did a tasting the other day, nailed it by the way, 4 out of 6. And
did you say 4 out of 6?
So 6 blind wines, and I guess 4 of them. Pretty.
Well, go on, talk us through that. What happened?
That's the exam. So the Court of Master Sommeliers exam, 6 wines, 3 white, 3 red. This was an easy lineup though. It was very classic. So it was, but I was very impressed with myself because there's this one producer of Gruner Veltliner called Domaine Vacau. Nightmare. Like it's just so neutral. And I always miss it. And I didn't miss it. I called Gruner straight away. Then it was Hunter Valley Semillon aged, which I got. Yeah. I missed the last one, which was an Albarino, and I called it a Grigio. I call it a Gewurz.
Oh,
that was bad, but you know, still. And then it was Beaujolais and Reserve Rioja or Reserve Rioja, and I guess the producer of that one as well because I knew it. I was like, I know who you are, baby. And then I missed the last one. Yeah. So
can you really taste what appellation or like the terroir from that area when you drink a wine? You're like, okay, I know that's that winemaker. I know that. Like, how many wines do you have to drink?
Every now and then, it's an anomaly. It's really an anomaly.
So it's not like the TV shows.
It's definitely like.
Oh, yeah, that's Frankie. I know him. He's a good bloke.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, there's some people who just stylistically make these wines that they're usually the ones that swing on a pendulum all the way to one side.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this famous in some movie, the third Somm movie, I forget what it's called, and Michael Engelman, who used to be his master sommelier, he used to be at Rockpool Bar and Grill, and he spent a lot of time in Australia, and then he went to America. He was like the Bev director for Mona, and he's in the film, and they're all judging Pinot Noir, and then he grabbed the last one, and he's like, "This is by far." He was like, "This is by far," and everyone's like, "Oh yeah," and then they kind of screenshot out of it, and they're like, "He just called the producer out of all these Pinots," and it is because it's such a pulp, like he's like 100% whole bunch, he's like 100% New Oak. It's great. So when you get those wines, you're like, I know who you are.
Yeah, that's a very different Pinot. I can kind of deal with a bit of Port Phillip Estate because their Pinots are very different as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think I could do it confidently, but I can always go.
Some of them have like and it's almost like you just get these like key pointers, and that Rioja I knew because I've listed at Bibo for pretty much since we opened. It's like so old school because Rioja's always known for having American oak. They leave it in barrel for a really long time, so it has this like oxidative, like dusty fruit. So we're tasting this like the fruit's super juicy, vibrant.
It's a banger,
primary banger. And
can you please next time you get together with your Somm mates, I would just want you to drop that at least once.
Mate, it's already in the plan. I wish I had my laptop with me and be like, I'm actually like, I'm going to call Michael from PS40 and be like, should we just call it banger wines? Like top 100 bangers. Like, seriously.
I'm a fan.
And then we have like a Triple JS event where we all vote.
I mean, one thing I'm noticing about the CBD in Sydney is there's more wine bars coming up, which is just really, really exciting.
Yeah, it's convenient.
I've been going to Fix Wine Bar for about 13 years. Stu and the team, they're amazing.
He's like the OG wine bar. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's mega. And he's a bit of a kind of sensei to my wife who's on the wine journey. So she'll be looking at a lot of wines. I look forward to paying for that. There's another one, Vinny Divini just opened up as well on Carrington Street. Great guys. So I'm really excited by this movement of these wine places coming up. And if they can all have their little distinctive lists of bangers,
that'd be great.
Curated by Lou, then that's exciting as well because we're going to try different stuff.
Exactly. And I'm really excited. I feel like 2 to 5 years ago, all the wine bars that were opening up were natural wine bars, which is fantastic. But there was no there's heaps more wine than natural wine out there. So I love that the new wine bars that are opening up are, they offer those wines, of course, because it's really important, but they're offering a whole spectrum. Like Vinny Divini have, wines from Turkey and wines from Greece and this kind of Mediterranean feel to it. I love Raf. Me and Raf used to work together a very long time ago. You go the different offerings other than your classic. There's a lot of Italian wine bars as well. So just other than that, it's like offering a broad spectrum of wines, which is, what it's all about.
So what's the biggest change you've seen in the wine industry since you've been in it?
A lot of chicks now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a lot more relaxed. It's maybe I'm working in a wine bar though, so it's really I can't really comment on the restaurant scene, but I feel like in the last 5 years, maybe that's just my own personal journey. I'm a lot more, if you don't know something, it's fine.
Yeah.
I remember when you didn't know something, oh my God, I dreaded it.
The snobbery.
Snobbery. I think it's really disappearing, which is fantastic. It's, it's kind of exhausting. I'm guilty of being a snob from time to time, don't get me wrong. As soon as I hang out with my Somm friends.
It's like, how many medals you got?
Like,
that's right.
But I feel like, especially in Australia.
Here comes Goldie Chardonnay Lou with the bangers.
And it's just,
Cracker. That's good, mate.
It's more approachable. And I think, it's more dynamic. The more Somms, it's less, which is kind of a shame though as well. Like I remember working for places and your only job was a Somm, which is awesome, especially when you're training because you're like, all I'm doing is wine. But now the roles are way more dynamic. It's like you're a somm, you're a manager, you're doing lots of things.
As a consumer, though, I think it's great that it's become more relaxed, because what that does is that filters down through to the consumer, where they don't feel scared or worried about asking a question.
Exactly.
So therefore, they're going to ask questions. They're going to learn more. Then they're going to buy more.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the restaurant, but they probably do. I'd be keen to see if you've seen over your years working in restaurants and bars where the average consumption's increased, where maybe people just go out for one bottle, maybe now they go out for two, or they have a glass of fizz first, then two bottles. I know personally, I do that a little bit more, where we'll start off with a Negroni or a glass of fizz. Then we might go, right, well, we'll have a bottle of white and then a bottle of red,
Yeah.
And you say,
And it's that old school
that got out of hand quite quickly.
Then we're DJing at 3 a.m. in the morning
Exactly.
at your place.
They were like, cool, so what we doing now? Oh, we're going to have breakfast. But I think that the general flow down effect is that when you take the kind of wank out of wine, more people are open to having a conversation. They're going to buy it. They're going to get excited. Therefore, the wine producer's selling more. Like, it's just good for the industry.
It's so good. And it's it's swung back again, because I get a lot of questions like, do you sell a lot of fortified or dessert wine? And, I kind of contribute this to Uber a little bit, because it's really easy to get home now. Like I remember when I'd finished work a long time ago in the city, and it would just be so annoying to get home. You'd have to hail a cab sometimes. They wouldn't want to go to your suburb. And it's almost like you're like, okay, I'm going out now. I'm going to get my Uber.
Yeah.
Going to get my Uber home. Awesome. No one, like, rarely do I have tables that are driving now.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember before, it was like, oh, well, I'm driving. We're all driving. We're going to have one glass of wine each, which is fine as well. You don't have to drink all the time. But it's just really cool to see that it's come back the other way, and people are like, yeah, I'm getting a cocktail. Like, we've stepped up our cocktail program a lot, because we were very basic. We had 3 to 4 and made what we could. And we're like, oh, we're missing revenue. Like, we're missing people want it, so let's like give it to them. So we have some awesome cocktails. Roman's done a really good job at Bibo. And and now I'm like, it's part of my Bev program. Like I'm like, okay, what cocktails do we have? And I'm starting to think like wine with a cocktail. Like, okay, if this person comes in, they'll want this. This person comes in, they'll want this, and make sure I cover all bases.
If he comes in, Negroni.
Mate, I just made a burnt butter rum old fashioned. It's ridiculously delicious.
Oh, that sounds mega. I'm just going to take a brief time out while John saw some stuff
How
out.
big was the bag did you bring? Did you bring the ingredients?
Do you remember the champagne Negronis we had in Canberra?
Yes, at that Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's like luxe living. You're like, all right.
We went to this place. We went for a truffle dinner at Otis Dining, because we did a podcast with a chap down there, and we got greeted on arrival with a champagne Negroni, and it was fabulous.
It was really good.
It was lovely.
I still haven't had one. I've heard about them.
I've had quite a few different sort of themed Negronis. One I had with rosemary.
Was it
It was
good?
absolutely fantastic. Can't remember where I had it.
Is she one of your mates?
Yeah, she was a good lass. So I'm trying to. Obviously, Negroni is a classic, perfect cocktail, 3 parts, all the same. But I'm starting to see like Negroni's changing as well, and now they've got different influences and all that stuff. So
There is like, it's nice when you go to places and they have a little twist on them. We have a little twist on ours. We put 5 mils of Madeira in ours to kind of, and we barrel age it as well, which at the beginning when I was like, oh, we're barrel aging it, it's because it's easier during service. You don't have to go do. You just put it all in one batch. But now when I go out and I taste Negronis that have been made like on the spot, I'm like, oh, it feels like I can really feel the gin.
yeah,
But with the barrel, but most of the places pre-batch now as well, because people always order them. And you do feel like it gets a bit pokey if it's not pre-batch. Like I really love how it kind of just all the ingredients really meld together, which is really cool.
I spoke to a mixologist, he calls himself, in Milano. His name's Andrea Cinacci, and he was telling me about the origins of the Negroni. And he said you're only supposed to mix the two together, which is the Campari and the vermouth. You're not supposed to put the gin. So you're only supposed to put it together for 24 hours.
Oh no!
And then after 24 hours, and you pour that, then put the gin in.
I'm sorry. What's his name?
Andrea Cinacci.
I'm sorry, Andrea Cinacci.
So you mentioned going
does
back
make
to the
sense.
changes in the wine industry. What about the changes in wine? Have you seen changes in wine? Because there's obviously it's very sort of influential with culture. One particular varietal that I absolutely can't stand is Pet Nat. And there's a reason why they stopped doing it 600 years ago. And now it's starting to come back as some sort of phase and craze, and it's just absolutely
You're going to
crap.
come into Bibo. I'll give you the Tross and Prosecco, and you're just going to love it. Mate.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've
It's a
had
German. It's made from Riesling and Pinot
Yeah.
Blanc. It's really
It's a
good.
Pet Nat.
It's a Pet Nat, but it's
I
like
don't find it's too
it's a
beery
bang.
and cidery.
No, this one's really good.
Yeah,
It's really
and
good.
it just looks like thick clouds.
I remember when we first opened Bibo, and I'd just been working in this natural restaurant, and I was like, yep, I'm going to bring Pet Nat to Double Bay. It was so, like, I really ate my words. Like, people were like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, it was really hilarious.
And there's normally a bit of stuff swimming around in there
yeah.
as well.
Oh, lovely.
But also,
Yeast.
but if
Awesome.
but Pet Nats are really hard to pour because they, like, you can open a bottle at the start of service and it's going to be off by the end of service unless you get a really
That's a hint to stop making Pet Nats.
So let's just
Isn't it called method ancestral? Or so?
So let's just pause. What is Pet Nat for people that might not know what we're talking about?
So basically, champagne, you ferment the wine. You make like a white wine or a red wine, and then you put it in the bottle, add some yeast, put a cap on it, gets the bubbles, all the sediment drops to the bottom to the neck, and they do
Disgorging.
disgorging. Thank you. Thank you. And they get rid of that sediment. With Pet Nat, you start.
And that was the traditional method. Method traditional. Yeah.
method
Yeah.
traditional. Very good.
Your French is
points.
just like my Italian.
Baguette, Jacques Cousteau. Sorry, go on.
That's like classic
My kids
Australian.
need the wine.
So Pet Nat, they start fermenting it and then they finish it in the bottle. So all that cloudy goodness is
Goodness.
is in
Yeah,
there.
that's subjective.
But there's I did try and pour once because in Italy you have a Prosecco col fondo, which means the bottoms, which is like a Pet Nat Prosecco, which apparently all the locals drink.
I've had it. It's amazing. No, I'm joking.
Because it's Italian. Bab, bab, bab.
Yeah.
But look, I never like to rubbish a varietal because I've been caught out so many times. So it's not that I just think it's a fad, and I think there's a reason why they stopped it. It's because it, like as you said, you open a bottle, 15 minutes later, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like there's no sort of longevity in that wine whatsoever.
Yeah.
Its temperature is like the way it's stored is humongous. Like you can open two bottles from the same person stored 1 degree apart and they're completely
Yeah.
different. Like it seems like an
I
unstable.
used to have some that were like
risk.
you'd open them and it would be scary. Like the cap
Clear
would
a
like be
room.
like where you're like, oh my God. And like it would be at the start of service, there'd be like one customer in the restaurant and it'd be like a gunshot. Like,
It's like,
I was like,
did you
bro.
catch that?
I called him and I was like, bro, I can't pour this. Like people think it's dangerous.
Yeah.
here.
It's got a warning on the side.
But there is
Aim
some,
away from
like,
face.
Oh, sorry. Like everything, there's some good ones.
Yeah.
So you
Well, look,
really
I'm going to
go
have to come to
shopping.
Bibo and
You
be,
have the
proven wrong.
Trossen. Trossen's delicious. I mean, anything the Germans do is delicious. I mean, winemaking wise. And you have to have a method ancestral, like from Bougie Sedon, which is like off dry. It's so good.
is that the
Made
go-to?
from
That's
Gamay.
yeah.
That's like old school, delicious from Savoie. It's like that's my. So if I'm a bit drunk when I'm out to dinner, and I'm like, I need to, I'm with the wine crowd, need to have another glass, but maybe I need to slow down. So but I want to seem cool.
Yeah.
So I'm either like, let's have a bottle of Bougie Sedon.
Yeah.
It's like the alcohol in it's like 5 to 7. It's like Moscato almost. A little bit more alcohol. You could have a Moscato as well. And you're just like, it's so juicy. It's like having a cleansing sorbet before your dessert or before your cheese or whatever. and it kind of sobers you up a bit.
Okay, so it wasn't just to be cool. It's actually you
Yeah.
do like it.
Yeah, I really
'Cause
like
that's what
it
I
as
feel-
well.
Yeah, because that's what I feel like Pet Nat really was. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm so trendy.
The irony is this man bought a bottle of Pet Nat away when we went away at Christmas. Bought a bottle, and this is just the irony from a good friend of ours called from Michael from Vanguardist who did this rosé Pet Nat.
No, they came in a pack.
Well, you still bought his wine.
Yeah, because I support winemakers.
Well, and it was nice. I liked it.
That's what I do. That's what I say.
Yeah,
I'm
so
just
there's
supporting
some
my
good
alcoholism.
ones.
But, you know.
There's some good ones.
So going back to your Aussie wine, what in your view, what's your kind of top 3 Aussie winemakers? You know, you seem to have a great affection for Aussie wine, which is great. What's your top 3 at the moment that you're looking at or you're watching, or that are approachable?
So first one is okay. Oh, I've got so many. Okay, first one is Josephine Perry, who makes Dormalona wines in Margaruva. She's incredible. I always just if I need advice, sometimes I message her because she's one of those she owns the business. She's got 3 boys. She takes them skateboarding. It's insane. I can't even wake up before 9 o'clock. I don't know how she does it. But she makes these really incredible dynamic wines. So she's just always experimenting, but they're always really good. Yeah. I mean, maybe she experiments and she throws the bad ones out. And she does all this stuff. She's doing great stuff with Chenin Blanc, Chardonnay, everything from natty wines to, just her ethos is incredible. And I've always loved what she's done. And then also what she does on social as well and how she communicates that. She's just very clever, switched on girl lady. And I really love her and respect her. Adam Waidowitz, who is Babe, he's the chief winemaker at Shaw & Smith. And he has his little side hustle project, which is Eldersley. We have the Pinot Blanc on from the hills, which is really cool. He's in charge of Toll Puddle.
Who just won Australia's the world's best Chardonnay, didn't they? Top Puddle Chardonnay.
So, which is one of my favourite Aussie ones. It's
cracking.
Just
and their Pinot's off the charts as well.
Yeah, I know they didn't make any in 19, so we have to wait.
I got that message too.
Yeah. But he's incredible because I really feel a lot of people would answer just small people, but what Shaw & Smith, and now they've got the other wine co as well. We pour their Arinto, and they've got a zillion MWs working for them, like David Lemire.
Would it be MW?
The owners.
MW?
Yeah, Master of Wine.
Oh,
Master of, not Master of None, Master of Wine. I read your bios. So they're pretty incredible what they do. And they're really involved in the sommelier community as well, which I think is really important. And how many more? Should I give you Charlotte Dalton, who's very similar to Josephine Perry in the Adelaide Hills. She's incredible as well. Or Charlotte Hardy, I think her last name is. And then, of course, my friend Nadia Wallington, she's a winemaker at Phillips Shaw at the moment. They just bought a winery in Orange, which I'm super excited about. So watch this place. It's called Charlou, and they have quartz in their vineyard. And I'm really excited about that because it really gives me Bindi vibes. They've got Riesling and Chardonnay, and we're going to make an anise this year from that. I really have to go to Orange soon, but got a little bit too much going on in the soil.
Awesome.
So and they're going to
be on time.
That
was good. That was very good. Yeah, have a sip.
That was so good.
So as a Somm, do you choose the venue or does the venue choose the Somm? How much?
You just you walk into the venue and I was
no, but do you get a sense? Because one of the things we found with Bibo, and I don't know if you were working. So the first time we went there for a nice long lunch. We then went back for dinner that night.
I do recall. I think you got sat. I was behind the bar. I'm always behind the bar, and you were they were these guys were here at lunch.
Yeah. We had a break in between just in case my mum's listening. We had a snooze. But one of the things that just blew us away was that was our first experience there, but it was like we'd been going there for years. The food was on point, the ambience was on point, the service was it was really weird, but really pleasurable, enjoyable experience, and hence why we continue to go back and support. Did you get that vibe? And that's why I'm asking, like, as a Somm, because when you're passionate about something, the venue's got to be invested in that as well.
Yeah.
Or does the venue just go, oh, we just get a Somm in? And how does that kind of work? Do you have to get something from the place?
So we've got a couple of owners. Well, Jonathan, the restaurant manager, he part owns it, which I think has a huge difference when the manager and the head chef as well part own it, because they're just so invested. You know, I eventually would like to own all of it. No, I'm joking. Some of it, which is a conversation I need to have. Sorry.
You better make sure you send this first.
I already act like I own it, but I don't. And then
just send them this podcast. Just listen. Listen around about 59 minutes.
It's already 59. Look, it's flying by. And so we've got an accountant who's also invested, a lawyer, but we've used them both regularly. And then the main guy is Paul Jones, who's an architect. He owns the building. It used to be an architecture firm. It used to be his firm. Right. And he's a Perth boy, and it has been his dream. So before I even met him, I kind of asked around, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, Paul, like he's been, you know, trying to open this wine bar for years. Like he's had the space for ages, but he hasn't opened until he met the right people. So the first person he met was Jose. They vibed really well. Mm-hmm. He obviously respected what Jose did. Jose had a little bit of a profile with Sweet Balam and working at Guillaume at Benelong. And then Jose and Jonathan worked together. And, you know, Joe, he really wanted to step out from Guillaume at Benelong and own something. He's a very pragmatic young man. And they needed a sommelier. And I used to work with Joe's girlfriend, and I'd been working at Rockpool for 5 years. Kind of my next natural step was to either be an assistant sommelier of a big place, or you know, at the Rockpool Group or Maryvale, or head sommelier of a small place. And I'd been working for a big group for quite a while, and I really loved it. I really took every opportunity I could from Rockpool. It was incredible. The cellar, you know, that was when David Doyle had invested his wine program there. So I was essentially a wine librarian, looking after these incredible wines. And then I kind of met with them, and we just, like me, Joe and Jose, it's like, it sounds, you come into Bibo and it says join the Bibo family, but we're seriously family. Like we fight like family. Like I love them. I hate them. I'm sure they feel the same about me. And we just, but it's so refreshingly honest. Like if we have an idea, it doesn't matter. You just put it on the table. Everyone might be like, that's weird. Or they're like, yes, you might have to convince, but it's so nice. Like to have, it's really hard. Like growing up and, you know, kind of like, you shouldn't argue. Maybe that's a female thing as well. It's like, you have to be nice, you know, to like being like, these are my ideas. Like, I don't care if you don't like that, you know.
I like that constructive discourse. It's
good.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I think that's why we did so well, you know, last year, because we were like, what should we do? We just kept talking for hours, and the people who we've kind of picked up along the way are the same, and we listen to them, and I think that's a difference. So Paul took 10 years to find us. Like you literally ask like people, like I have wine suppliers come in and they're like, oh, Paul, he offered me that, but then he couldn't get the right team, and now, you know, he's found the right team. And then even when we open, you know, nobody, you know, you get the write-ups in Concrete and Broadsheet and stuff like that. But I think everyone was really like, oh, you know, you're all the way in Double Bay. But 5 years later, still there, mate.
Still serving bangers.
Still serving bangers. That's stealing that. Yeah. Serving bangers since 2016. Hey.
Nice, there it is.
There it is.
That's going to be on the back of your T-shirt.
Yeah, 100%. Can't wait for the mixtape.
How important is the social media world nowadays for the success of a hospo venue? How important is that?
It's really important. You can pretend like, you know, it's not, but it really is. And I think that's the next step for us, because me and Joe, mainly Joe, he's very good a photographer, somebody who hasn't been trained, but we always get comments on how good our Instagram page is at Bibo. And so he's been doing that. I think he'll still keep taking the photos, but we'll probably get somebody in charge, because we're really, at the moment, it's like we kind of post every now and then, try to post once a day, but now we're really looking at, really tying it in, getting a campaign together, because we actually do a lot, but we're just really bad at communicating it. So we're like, okay, we just need somebody to be like, I need this from you, I need this, and just tying it in with like our EDMs and stuff like that. So it's really important. And it's really important, I don't know if anybody's realized at home, but as soon as you put a face in an Instagram post, the likes like triple. Like it doesn't, you can put a nice bottle of wine or you can put somebody holding a wine. It's completely different. And I think that's very reminiscent of, again, that connection that people want. People don't just, hey, this is a wine. They want like, hey, I like this wine because of this and this. So
every time my face is in my post, I get no likes.
You get unsubscribers.
Exactly. I lose followers.
But that's kind of one of the premises of this podcast is humanizing people.
Yeah.
And learning a bit more about their story, their journey, and that kind of stuff. Because I think, everyone can hide behind a good image.
Yeah.
But when you put yourself out there, you kind of peel them back the onion a little bit as well. So that's awesome. That's awesome. One of the questions we got from a friend of mine, Vino Nerd, who has dined with me as well at Bibo. 3 great wines under $30.
Okay, retail. Oh, I'm bad at retail, but I can do this. There's someone the winemaker. $30 on the dot retail.
That is lovely, by the way.
If you can, it's really hard because I'm thinking independent, but I have to think Dan Murphy's like quite big.
That's fine.
Because there's Kerry Thompson 5452 Riesling from Watervale in the Clare Valley, incredible wine. If it would be in like smaller places like the Oak Barrel, is amazing. That'd be under 30 retail. What else? I need to start learning more about retail. It's true. Yeah. I'm like,
or
you
just
have
stop
like
taking your
restaurant.
wines home from the office.
Okay, I'm going to do. Oh, actually, Yugal Cote d'Aron Grenache blend, which you can get at Dan Murphy's, banger.
Yeah,
banger.
Okay.
I know he's a big guy, like he's a big producer, but that is one of the best, most consistent French wines. I love them. I always bring them to blind tastings because it's like super classic. If you want to try something from France, from the Rhone Valley, delicious, under $30. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I need to do a Chardonnay.
Considering it's your favourite, you have
It
to.
is my favourite.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do this. Wait. Probably Cullen. Yeah. Cullen wine Chardonnay from Margaret. Obviously not the Kevin John, unfortunately. It's not under $30.
So what do you look for when you buy a wine?
I get all my wine for free. What are you talking about?
Well, if you had to invest in a wine, what do you look for?
I look for scarcity.
Yeah.
Mainly as like an investment. And I know that I look for things that I wouldn't be able to afford at a restaurant, which is, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
It's stuff that I can't afford at a restaurant or that probably wouldn't be listed in a restaurant because otherwise I usually see that stuff at Bibo and I can list it at Bibo. And value. Like sometimes you can just find really good value wines, but most of the time I'm pretty, like if I go to a bottle shop, my favorite is, I still can't believe how much Marlborough Sauv Blanc there is. Like I was at my parents' house up at the Central Coast, went to BWS, and there was just a whole fridge, like four shelves worth of Sauvignon Blanc. I just couldn't, I was like, seriously, like this is insane. This is a cult? No, I'm joking.
It's like beer makers. Yeah.
But it was just like, I was like, this is incredible. And then like the Riesling section was like this big.
Yeah.
And what did she loves, my sister loves like very dry. She says she likes lemon juice Riesling. I'm like, Abe, we got you covered. So we got the Jim Barry, the JB Riesling.
Yeah.
That's always really good. It's another under 30. But yeah, it was pretty like, it was slim pickings. Like when I was looking, I was like, okay, no. Now I sound like a snob.
Nah.
So your time in the industry, are there any kind of wine cliches that are true or that you'd like to get rid of that people perhaps think about working in the wine industry?
Cliches.
Well, you just mentioned wine snob. Is that?
Oh yeah, we are snobs. But the truth is, like, it's almost like it's kind of like almost like the Robert Parker kind of like. I find if you, read Gourmet Traveller, or you associate your taste buds with a wine reviewer, you can kind of do the same with sommeliers. So, my partner's a sommelier, and we always argue on wines, and he's like, "It's like this." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's like this." So it's almost like there's always no wrong answer. I'm always a bit Switzerland about wine, and I'm always like, I think there's a wine, like it doesn't matter as long as the wine is sound, so there's no faults to it.
Yeah.
Then there's a time and place for it. Somebody's going to enjoy that wine, even if it's the $2 wine. A uni student's going to have a cracking time on that. So
John loves Passion Pop.
I started on Passion Pop. Passion Pop was my drink of choice
And
when I
Buckfast.
was
A couple of cruises. Oh, Jesus, that takes me back.
Smirnoff Double Black.
Oh,
That's
no.
when
UDLs.
that's when I used to finish work. All my friends, I'd be 18 and I'd finish work and they'd all be drinking all night. And I'm like,
I got to
I
catch up. Yeah, Smirnoff Double Black.
Smirnoff Double Black. It's a double, baby.
Right, that's an
happens.
institution.
Now they've got bloody seltzers. I'm like, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Seltzers are dangerous. They're pretty popular, right?
They're very popular. Locale.
Yeah.
My friend Alex Kirkwood, he just released his seltzer.
Yep.
Which I'm really sorry, Alex, I forgot the name of it. But apparently it's like a thing. It was a big thing in America. I think it's going to be like the new vodka soda lime,
I think
to be
so.
honest.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait. I haven't been asked for one yet at Bibo. This is my thing. I think I'm going to put a non-alcoholic beer on. I know.
Well, so it's funny you mentioned that. So we had, so a friend of mine is the co-founder at Liars,
Oh, yep.
which is non-alcoholic. I think it's the world's most awarded non-alcoholic spirit, but they've just launched these RTDs. So cans of Prosecco, Amalfi Spritz, gin and tonics in cans. And then they do bottles of spirits, but it's all alcohol free.
Wow.
And
I really need to get them on. Like I hear every time I talk about it,
I'll connect
people
you.
are like,
I'll connect
you
you.
need to get them on. I'm like, I do.
Easy peasy, I'll connect you. But we did an event actually, and it was a bit of a networking event, and we gave everybody a Negroni on arrival. But it was a Liars one, they didn't know that. And so you had this kind of natural placebo effect. And then when we kind of introduced the fact that it was alcohol free,
That's so cool.
real mixed bag in the room. It was really, really cool. But that's going to be, that's a massive trend, people just not drinking but wanting to still partake and go out and socialise and eat out.
That's the biggest thing now is I feel like that's changed as well. Like we've got seed lip on and it costs the same as a bottle of spirits. So it's at the start I was like, oh, how much do I charge? It's not, and I'm like, actually, it's more that, and I gave up alcohol in January. I did dry January, and then went to Mimi's and then thought I'm never doing that again because I can't handle my booze after 1 month of dry January. No, it was really good it's very hard not to drink in a wine bar, but I did it. But it was more, I just really found when I was with friends, it was more I just needed to have something in my hand and like
Totally
I'm really like I have to I'm coming up with like a non-alcoholic margarita because I feel like for the ladies, they're just like, that's something that they really miss.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so watch this space. It's going to be a non-alcoholic margarita.
It's going,
at Bibo.
Well, it's funny. So Mark was talking about, and speaking of ladies, he was saying, they've seen pregnant women, drinking their stuff because it's still a cocktail, but it's alcohol free. And so they're not getting that, oh, you're not drinking. Ooh. It's like, well, hang on.
That's the crazy thing about America. Australia, though, is it like my partner's French and he just said, he's like, in France, if you don't drink, it's fine. Like in Australia, if somebody's like, I'm not drinking, sorry. Like, I'm so sorry.
Can I still come out?
Yeah, and it's like
I want to
he's
apologise for my accent before, by the way. I didn't mean to offend you.
Sorry, my family do it to him all the time. So it's really funny. And I'm like, I'm not drinking, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. But he's like, you don't have to be sorry. I'm like, oh, you're right. My body, my choice.
Drinking, like, no, I'm not drinking. So I apologise for not drinking as well.
Well, look on that. I think we're going to wrap this up and
Just
finish.
wait, I've got another question.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, John. So we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to ask you a question that we ask at the end of every episode. So you got a table booked for 4, all right? So you can invite 3 people, one of them being yourself, so you're the 4th person, by the way.
Naturally.
They can be dead or alive. Go. Who do you invite?
So first one is Lalu Bislois. She used to, I think she still owns a little bit, but used to work at Domaine de la Romani Conti. But now she owns Domaine Loire. She's like a boss lady winemaker in Burgundy. Steve doesn't know this. Actually, he does know this. I've told him now. But if we have a baby and it's a girl, it's called Lalu. So definitely her. Sentimental, probably my grandma, because she's amazing. And the last one would be maybe like the guy who, like the Chateauneuf de Pape guy, the guy who like went to from Italy, went to Chateauneuf de Pape and was like, "This place is awesome. Let's make wine here." Maybe that guy.
You'd have a lot to say.
Just be like, "What was up with that?
Yeah.
Why did you leave Italy?"
Yeah, I know. France. Like, come on, man.
Just to get a bit of perspective. And Bart be like, I'm in a bar. We're making bangers, bro.
Well, I'm going to take your question now because you nicked mine. Is this how it's going to go every week?
Yeah, that's it.
Right, okay, good to know. Just so I know. Where do people get hold of you? How do people find out more about Bibo? How do they follow you on your social channels? So
I'm at Lou the Somm and Bibo's at Bibo Wine Bar. You can come and see some Bibo, which is in Double Bay, 7 Bay Street, 93624680.
Is that the postcode? No. It's very long.
That was the account number.
That's it. If you would like to deposit some money into my account.
Tips. We're taking tips. We're taking tips, guys.
Yeah, that's me. But probably the best is Instagram.
Okay, so how do we buy this wine?
How do we buy this wine? Through Bibo at the moment. Mm-hmm. I'm a bit disorganised and I'm about to go to retailers this week. Hopefully like 5-way sellers.
You do need to practice retail then.
Camperdown. I really do. Like it's a real blind spot for me.
Why? Because you drink too much?
Yeah.
On that bombshell, we're going to wrap things up here at Lifestyle Pirates.
It just turned off. It's done.
Turned off.
That's good. Actually, that's perfect anyway because it fades to black.
Lovely. Lou, thank you for coming on.
Thank
we shall
you.
see you very soon. Thanks for taking the time
Awesome.
and introducing us to your wine.
Hey, Ro.